Welcome back to CIA Declassified. We are moving into 1967. The ground war in Vietnam has reached a bloody stalemate. The thick canopy of the jungle acts as a natural shield for the Ho Chi Minh Trail, allowing the North to move men and metal with terrifying efficiency. The agency realized that to win on the ground, they had to conquer the heavens. They didn't just want to forecast the weather, they wanted to weaponize the clouds. This wasn't about umbrellas and raincoats. It was about transforming the local climate into a strategic obstacle. By flooding the valleys and washing away the roads, they hoped to do with water what they couldn't do with lead. This was the birth of Project HABOR. How did a project to control the weather get a name like HABOR? The name Project HABOR was a deliberate, though slightly misspelled, play on the concept of a harbor. Factual records indicate that the agency wanted a name that implied a safe haven for internal documentation. The specific spelling, HABOR, was an administrative cryptonym assigned to the Environmental Modification branch of the agency's research wing. It was intended to sound like a mundane maritime logistics file to any unauthorized eyes. To create a storm, you first have to plant a seed. Project HABOR utilized a technique known as cloud seeding. Aircraft would fly into the heart of developing storm systems and release canisters of silver-iodide. A quote from a 1966 project status report. The objective is to produce rain in sufficient quantities to soften the road surfaces, cause landslides along roadways, and wash out river crossings, thereby hindering the enemy's logistical capability. End quote. The operational phase of this research in Southeast Asia was famously known as Operation Popeye. A quote from former Secretary of Defense Robert McNamara. "We are looking for every possible advantage. If the environment can be managed to our benefit, it would be a dereliction of duty not to explore it." End quote. The project successfully extended the North Vietnamese monsoon season by an average of 30 to 45 days. The specific chemical used, silver-iodide, has a crystalline structure similar to ice, which tricks water droplets in a cloud into freezing and falling as precipitation. Cloud seeding flights were conducted by the 54th Weather Reconnaissance Squadron, which carried out over 2,000 sorties during the life of the program. A side effect of the heavy rainfall was the mud out, where soil became so saturated that even specialized military vehicles were abandoned in the muck. The U.S. Senate held hearings in 1974 where the existence of weather warfare was officially admitted for the first time by military officials. The silver-iodide canisters were often manufactured by the Naval Ordnance Test Station at China Lake. When we look at the declassified files, the most total blackouts are found in documents with titles like Global Atmospheric Ionization and Seeding Saturation. That file is a graveyard of information containing more redactions than any other environmental record. Specifically, the section on intentional long-term climatic shift as strategic leverage, which seems to be entirely redacted. Over 4,000 pages of satellite-linked aerosol dispersal remain hidden as well. Why is the agency hiding the 2026 evolution of a 1960s rain project? Get ready for the theory of the sky control. Speculation suggests natural disasters are actually Project HABOR test. This theory claims the redactions in the atmospheric steering logs hide the fact that the hurricanes hitting our coast are actually manufactured events. Some imagine the redacted pages have to do with global tidal manipulation and some sort of tsunami trigger. This theory argues the agency uses HABOR tech to in some way heat the ocean floor. Theorists looking at the blacked-out electromagnetic cloud ionization logs argue that rain contains conductive dust that turns the atmosphere into a surveillance sensor. Gossip suggests the black bars in the crop yield management section hide a famine as a service program. This theory posits the agency can delete rainfall to force regime change. Rumor says the triggered static discharge redactions hide evidence that the agency can now aim lightning. They claim forest fires are actually pinpoint strikes. Some believe the redacted pages hide a flash freeze program that can drop the temperature of a city by 50 degrees in 10 minutes. Speculation persists that the reactions in the solid state precipitation section prove the agency uses smart hail, kinetic impactors disguised as ice. Fringe gossip argues the redacted sections describe a weather tax where corporations pay to ensure their events don't get rained on. Whispers from the dark web suggest the redacted aerosol saturation limits files prove clear skies are sprayed with behavior-controlling agents. A wild theory claims the missing pages describe a hurricane on a leash used to park storms over enemy naval bases. Conspiracy enthusiasts argue that the climatic data mining redactions hide the CIA's secret that they have stolen the weather patterns of the past. Some whispers suggest the redactions are so heavy because they prove the 2026 world is on the verge of a manufactured total environmental reset. Rumors are circulating that the missing pages contain a resonance frequency that can vibrate the sky into a state of permanent winter. Some theorists even say that the redactions hide a rain lock, a chemical barrier that prevents any moisture from reaching a targeted nation for years. Word on the street is that the black bars in one of the documents hides the location of a weather hangar where storms and the seeding required in order to produce them are stored like planes. Speculation suggests the redacted logs cover a project to make rain invisible to civilian radar so the agency can flood regions without detection. There's a wild claim that the redactions hide a power vacuum where the agency literally sucks the electricity out of the clouds to power their bunkers. Some even believe that the missing pages prove the agency is planning to mute the sound of thunder in the future to carry out stealth atmospheric attacks. And lastly, some hint that the redactions prove the agency has successfully cloned the biological enzymes of clouds to grow artificial storms in labs. Was Project HABOR a success? Tactically, it was a wet wonder. It proved that the atmosphere could be manipulated with surgical precision. Strategically, it was an ethical quagmire. It worked so well that it scared the world into banning it, forcing the weather war into the shadows. As far as technological and operational breakthroughs go, the weather war led to breakthroughs that define the environmental landscape today, such as precision cloud seeding. In 2026, this tech is used globally for agricultural survival. Nations like the UAE and China use the agency's original manifest to combat desertification. Atmospheric modeling, the software built to track HABOR, evolved into the global climate predictors used to save lives during natural disasters. Silver-Iodide delivery, the screamer canisters are now used in 2026 for hail suppression to protect multi-billion-dollar crops. And environmental impact analysis. Project HABOR taught the agency how to measure secondary climatic effects, a foundation for carbon sequestration monitoring. Project HABOR reminds us that when you play with the clouds, you eventually have to deal with the lightning. As the files reveal, the agency has stopped trying to control the sky. Thanks for listening, and join us next time as we examine Project Big Safari. In the rapid response hangars, the agency builds the Frankenplanes of espionage. We'll uncover the quick reaction capability manifest. Join us next time for the fast track spies. In the meantime, I'll see you in the archives.